Sometimes it isn't. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh, and we're talking about faith in business today. People have asked me a little bit, why are you talking about faith in business? You used to be the direct mail guy. Well, I don't get very many views on that either, so I thought I got nothing to lose. But that's not really why. That's really not why. And I've been sharing a little bit about my background and about some of the seemingly bad things that happened to me as a child that worked out really well. And we'll continue on that thread. But today I thought I'd just talk about faith in general and why it's a powerful thing and why it's necessary in business. And so let's go over here and get my pointer. Boom. There's a chapter in the Bible, in the book of Hebrews, it's called the faith chapter. And faith is the evidence of things not seen, the title deed of things hoped for. And right at the beginning it says, I think verse 6, it says, without faith it's impossible to please God. And it talks about Abraham searching for a city whose builder and maker was God, about Noah, about all kinds of people, mentions everybody. But one of the most interesting parts is that Moses is highlighted a little later, and it says that Moses counted reproof of Messiah greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he looked to the reward. And I've always thought that was a really, really interesting verse, especially because people would tell me, oh, you're not supposed to worry about the reward. You're supposed to just love God and do it all for love. I said, I don't know much about love. I'm not that good at love. But I thought, okay, if there's a reward for faithfulness or other things, then maybe, let's look up what there's a reward for. Since Moses did it, right? So it's a very, very interesting passage. And, I didn't take a lot of business courses. I could tell you the one story. I went to see one of the professors in the one business class, Professor West. I should look up his full name, but anyway, this was a huge lecture with 400 people in it, Business 101 or something. And I said to him, I've come to the conclusion that what you're trying to teach is that there's no one right answer to a business question. There's better answers and worse answers, and the way you find a better answer is you clearly define what the question is, and then you come up with lots of answers, possible answers. Then you look at that question and try to map across on a better one. And he said, that's really good. I don't think 10% of my students realize that's my main objective, to teach that in my class. I said, I've noticed one other thing, and that is that you give multiple choice exams, and the students are convinced that the way you find the right answer is to memorize the textbook. And your tests teach more than your course. And I'll never forget, he took like 2 steps back, ran into the wall, and he said, no one's ever said that to me before. You're probably right. And he said, but there's nothing else I can do. There's so many students. Well, I decided at that point that I would get an education, and I ended up with a master's in philosophy of science, really. And that, I would compete in business the best I could if that were where I ended up. But anyway, long later, decades later, I was in Amway and got to be a platinum. And because of that, because of my, achievements, if you will, I got to meet with a famous author who wasn't famous the first time I met with him. No one had bought his book except the people I knew. And so we had dinner, and a big dinner. And, I really delved in. I really liked what he said and delved into it. Later, he wrote another book called Cashflow, Quadrant. There it is over here. And that was included in the first book, but it wasn't the central message. It was part of the message. And so then later I had a chance to have dinner with him again, and And I got a chance to talk to him privately. And here's the idea of his second book for sure, and mentioned in the first. He said there's 4 ways you can make money. You can be an employee, you can be self-employed, where you own a job, you can be a business owner, where you own a system and people work for you. And what intrigued me, and he said, only 5% of people get, or something like that, get over to the top and get over into this business owner or investor. And he said that's where you really want to be in life. You want to be where money works for you, and people work for you as part of your system. And of course they're rewarded also. But that's where you want to be, so that you're not just trading. Over here he says you're trading time for money. And I pondered this a lot, because I was presenting a system that I thought could get people from this side over to that side. And most people didn't care. They just really didn't care. And it intrigued me, because it sounded like such a great thing to be aiming for over here. And so I pulled him aside and I said, I've noticed something about your diagram. And that is that this side over here is very concrete, down to earth. You trade time and you get a paycheck. This one is a little less. You build a business, but you basically bill companies for service and stuff, and you get paid, right? Or you sell merchandise and you get paid. And so it's very, very quick between the effort and the reward. I said, over here, it takes time to build a system. It could take years and years and years before it really starts paying back. And the same with investments, right? I said, over here is faith. I don't know if I can type that in. Faith. The other side is no faith. I better give up on that. And I said, very few people have very much faith. And unless you have faith, you'll never even think about getting over on the other side of that wall. And he looked at me and he said, that's really good. Do you mind if I use that? And I said, no, I don't mind. Go ahead. Now, did he? I don't know. I haven't talked to him since. That was probably 2007. But maybe it got him thinking. And that's what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the ability to see beyond the present, the ability to see opportunities, which I think is the heart of marketing. Look at my other videos. And that vision is faith-based. Now, faith can come in a lot of different packages, and so we'll be talking about that. Thanks for watching. Like and share. Your friends will be inspired, I think.